our business at the time, it consisted of two parts.
So your collaboration with them basically started from providing some kind of a concierge service.
That concierge service consisted of me with the phone running through our office and calling all those different dev shops.
Hi everyone. When I promised to create a video, an interview with a real existing marketplace, I didn't imagine that it can be so challenging. So finally, we are having this first interview on my channel. Please meet Yurii, co-CEO of YouTeam Marketplace.
Hi Igor. Thanks
hi,
for having
Yurii.
me.
Yeah, thanks for agreeing for this interview. Can you tell a couple of words about how did you come to an idea of a marketplace?
Sure. Thanks, Igor. I actually like telling this story, and my biggest challenge is how to make it shorter. So we initially started as a product development agency in London in 2013. So it was like a small consulting business. But then we got one really interesting client that found themselves in kind of tough situation, right? So it was a challenge for us to solve. So I remember being on the phone with their CTO, and their situation was so that so they raised money from an angel investor, and they hired some dev shop which screwed things up. So they had 3 weeks to bring up new prototype basically from the scratch, and they had no other choice. It's like we got together through referral, and I think they were calling everyone, just trying to solve it.
Yeah, they were in the rush probably.
Exactly. And like our business at the time, it consisted of two parts. So you had a consulting part, right, which when we were billing clients for our hours, and then we had the other stream of income, which came as a commission on top of the development hours that were built through our partners, which were 12 dev shops in Ukraine.
All right.
They were manually vetted. My thought was, what do I have to lose? I pick up the phone. I said, okay, let's see what we can do. And I picked up the phone and called like each of those 12 dev shops, asking one question. Guys, do you have an iOS developer available? But they have to be available now, because they have to start from tomorrow. Yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And somehow, we managed to put together the team that this client wanted. So it worked. They delivered the prototype, they raised their round, and the rest is history. And now, as I told, they're a quite successful company. And they still are our client.
So your collaboration with them basically started from providing some kind of a concierge service where you had demands and you were trying to satisfy it manually by finding someone who can.
Yeah, that concierge service consisted of me with the phone running through our office and calling all those different dev shops. And then I thought, wow, this is interesting, because we were able to really, help that client because we had a vetted, really small, but a vetted talent pool of talent. And it turns out you can have people available, you can have engineers available, even though they are already employed at those software development companies. So my next thought was, okay, if we have not 12, but 300 or 1,000 companies on the platform, how bigger is the chance that you will find the right match for different type of expertise, different kind of client we look for. This is how then it was pretty easy to find first client, and first client brought our second client, and after about a year we had about 10 clients, because we saw really quickly that out of those 10 clients, only 2 make us money. The rest are kind of hardly breaking even, or mostly being just a loss for a business. And like the common thing for those 2 top accounts, those 2 A customers, was that they never ordered any consulting services from us, like what we considered being the core for our business.
Yeah.
All they paid us for was this commission on top of the development teams that we have sourced for them in Ukraine. And this was like a first big strike. So how is it possible? It's like, it looks like the business works in a completely different way. we thought that we need to do a pivot because it looks like we have found something much bigger than we initially intended. So the way it worked for me, it was like, okay, we had a sample of 12 development companies, and it turned out that out of this limited talent pool, I was able to pull the talent which was exactly what that client looked for. So I managed to do something for them that they couldn't do themselves, right? Because I tapped into the pool of talent. Now imagine what the probability of this kind of successful match would be if I have not just 12 companies, but 300 or 1,000, right?
Yeah, it will be much easier to match the request with someone who can fulfill this request.
It's a simple math, right? It's like you have this Venn diagram and you have like different types of requests coming, which is like one circle of Venn diagram, and then you have different type of talent which is available within companies. So,
and somewhere is an intersection between those circles.
Exactly, and this intersection is YouTeam.
And when you understood that you need, you can increase your number of suppliers and increase the number of projects that need this service, what did you start to do at that moment?
I think it was what most marketplaces do at this stage. We put together a Google spreadsheet. Actually two, right? You have one were like potential clients whom we were calling, emailing, mostly emailing. The other was like potential vendors, like the dev shops who can have like a certain expertise. Then we had like a separate spreadsheet for the profile put together. And you would be surprised how much you can do with Google Spreadsheets.
I wouldn't be. This is one of the ways how I recommend to test the marketplace idea. But just to clarify, you didn't have any piece of software at that moment. Anything was automated, right?
No, we had a cheesy homepage, and that's pretty much all.
Some kind of software. So you had a landing page, and you generated some traffic on it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So this was one channel. Like the other channel was we did outbound. So we were putting together emails. We were targeting startup companies. So the understanding was that we are made out of the same clay, so it's easier for us to sell to them. We feel their pain, and it kind of works. But selling to startups has its pros and cons.
Sure.
We can talk about it later. So initially it was seed stage startups. Then we expanded to Series A, but it's still like early stage startups. I can tell you that now we are moving further up market, and now we are looking for, actually first of all, segmentation by the funding round is not the best segmentation you can make, because all sorts of companies raise Series A, all sorts of companies raise Series B. They are not the same, they're very different.
Sure.
So the size of the company or the annual revenue of the company is much better at segmentation. And you basically don't care how did they get there, but you care more the revenue they make. They have now that this alternative, the new Rich Boys Club, which is 100 million revenue club. And it's like more appropriate because these are all companies generating real revenue, not just raising money for life.
Yeah. And how did you generate traffic from such companies? Did you call them, or did you do some search engine optimization? Initially,
it was AdWords, and they brought us some good clients early on, but then for some reason they just stopped working. I still don't know why.
But the customer cost acquisition was probably not the lowest, right, at that moment?
Yeah, but also not very high either.
So it was fine for you?
It was fine.
All right.
Then we did cold email. We tried to go through different communities, like WeWork. Didn't really work for us. And then also slowly, gradually, we built organic traffic. So now organic traffic is one of the prominent channels for us.
Longer.
But it also depends on what is your core asset as a marketplace, right? What kind of fruit do you sell in your shop? So in our case, this is a B2B, complex, expensive service. So yeah, things take longer compared to, I don't know, if you sell taxi rides or sneakers.
Mm. All right. And did you use the same channel to generate traffic for supply side also?
No, for supply side, it kind of worked organically from very early on. Like it was mostly word of mouth. So we are kind of a very lucrative deal for for a dev shop, because we don't charge them any money up front. They only start paying us after they get their as a marketplace, you strive for a network effect, but in order to get to that network effect, you need to get certain like liquidity.
Yeah.
You need to get the juices flowing, and how do you get there in the first place? So with us, it was definitely a demand constraint part. With supply, we have a long line of companies that want to work with us, so we have this luxury of being picky, vet them, and only pick the best. From the demand side, it's harder. So we are, the biggest challenge for us was to build a sustainable acquisition channel. And I would say it's still our main focus, even now. So we managed to build organic traffic, but the problem is that this is a very noisy environment.
Yeah.
And you have tons of all sorts of dev shops, IT consultancies,
Sure.
outsourcing firms.
And
they're
all
all
of them
very
spend
loud.
money on search engine optimization of their websites again and
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. On content, also on direct marketing, they email, they spam, they call. So it's really, really challenging to get your voice heard, through all this noise.
Yeah.
So that would be the biggest challenge.
And how did you test what traffic channels could potentially work for you? I mean, did you scope some 1 to 3 channels that are the most likely will bring you target audience? Did you experiment with them, or what was your approach?
I wouldn't say it was a very systemic process for us. We kind of tried all sort of things just to survive. One of the things I would do differently, I would do more measuring, more analytics from the day one, right? Because lots of the things we did were just a blind guesses and leaps of faith. So we wasted a lot of resources, definitely, which we could probably use more productively. Then now we already have it, so now we built our own data room, and we see, for example, what is the ROI per channel. And that would be the most important part, right? Because as a marketplace, it's all about volumes.
Yeah.
So unlike software as a service, when you have your product is your value per se, right? So this is your main value point. What actually your product does? How does it ease the life of your customer? With a marketplace, your product is not a value. It's more it's just streamlining the value which is on the marketplace, right? So, and the bigger you are, the bigger is the value. So your product market fit is basically just getting big. If you are big enough, you have your product market fit, and vice versa. Having a product market fit means you will grow even bigger. But how do you get to that momentum? This is exactly the chicken egg problem.
All right. When you understood that you are a marketplace?
From day one, probably, because it was a deliberate decision. When we had Spreadsheets, we didn't really describe ourselves as a marketplace yet. But then when we built the first version of our software and launched it in early 2017, already everyone was on the same page. Yes, this is a marketplace. And for me also, I read, which I still consider best book about marketplaces and online platforms, The Platform Revolution.
Yeah, this is a very good book, guys. I recommend also to read it.
Yeah. for me, it was the best one I read on the topic. And this was also like a push to say, okay, for self-definition, right? So we are a marketplace. So here is how our value looks like. Here is what we have to prioritize and what are the problems and so on. So yeah.
All right.
Usually it's obvious if you're a marketplace or not. If you have two sides, you're a marketplace. And like if your job is putting them together, then you're a marketplace.
Yeah, but you didn't keep in mind the idea that you want to create a marketplace when you started experimenting with, helping your first clients to satisfy their
Usually,
supply.
like you don't think about what type of product am I creating at the first place because you don't care. You care about solving the problem. It's like, oh, I want to build marketplace. I'm building marketplace now. No, it kind of marketplace is just a tool, right? You can
Sure.
You can build SaaS. You can build hybrid of the two, like SaaS enabled marketplace. But the core is like, what problem do you want to solve, and do you have like any unique advantage, or can you build a unique advantage towards solving this problem?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This is a very good approach when you start trying to solve the problem, and then it can become a marketplace or a SaaS or other type of online application, whatever.
Exactly. This is actually maybe more generic thing because it has to do not only with marketplaces, all sorts of startups. The problem why it's so hard for people to build a startup, to build a successful company from the scratch, and also why most of these startups fail like really in their infancy or embryonic stage even, is that we don't have a right mindset to look for problems. All our life, like our whole education system, and everything we hear is telling us that like our job is to find a solution, not a problem. The problems are presented to us, but looking for problems is the most important part, right? Like, what is the problem which is big enough, intense enough, which you understand well enough, and you have like some even little unique position to be the one who solves it. That's the key.
Yeah, I agree. At which stage you started moving from spreadsheets to something more solid?
Yeah, it's interesting because when we were running spreadsheets, we really didn't define ourselves as a marketplace yet. We still were trying to do this as an agency. So we thought, we sat together, me and my co-founders, and like the thought was, okay, now we need to do something different. We can't just keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. So what do we do? And then like the idea was, okay, let's turn this into a platform, because we were doing all the picking of talent and all the kind of brokerage stuff ourselves. So it wasn't an open platform. Yeah. So now what if we open it and let people do it themselves? Yeah.
But first you need to create some space where they can interact with each other.
No, of course. You need to give some software which enables to create this like core asset. In our case, it's a profile of a developer, and you need to give some tools to search and so on, like this basic stuff. So yeah, and this was beginning of 2017 when we launched the first version. It was very cumbersome, nothing worked, but it already helped to understand better that what kind of product this could become.
So how much time did it take for you from the beginning, from the first client you found, until that moment in 2017?
2.5 years. If you take into consideration the phase of product consultancy, that would be 2.5 years. Then if we are looking from another perspective, like from the version 1 towards like the actual marketplace client already came on that new model, it's been about 2 months, and then another 2 months before we picked up our growth. So it all started working really. So then we picked up our growth and we started to grow like really fast.
What changed for you when you launched your first version of platform, did you change your approach in terms of generation traffic? How did you, what kind of processes did you handle manually, and what kind of processes could be automated at that stage?
You mean at the early stage?
Yeah.
Well, usually you do this like mechanical Turk approach, like this concierge approach, when you do most of the things manually before you can automate them. The question is whether you have the case which allows you to have a fully automated user experience, or whether you will end up with a mix of like automation and high touch approach. In our case, I don't think like the flow can be 100% automated. You still need to leave enough room for discretion, mainly because if someone is paying like $100,000, right, for the contract which they enter into through our marketplace, they expect that there will be some concierge with white gloves who will take care of everything.
They expect some level of service from
exactly.
Marketplace.
This is not, you don't buy a car.
At which point you started earning money? I mean, did you try to monetize your model from the early beginning?
Well, this is actually good news for those of you guys who are building marketplaces. One of the strong parts of the marketplace business model is that you can actually earn money from day one. You can earn money even before day one, before having a product, right? Like how AngelList started, for example. AngelList is, they had 2 spreadsheets of emails. They were emailing them both, and also they went to events and they were putting together, right, those startups and investors. And this is this thing kind of worked for them. With us, same thing. So from your first customer is your paying customer, and you start making money.
So was there anything that surprised you a lot?
One example I've been giving, I think at that talk at MacPo, I used it as well, was that what is the aha moment for your customer, right? Like when most of the customers had this like, wow, this is it. I really want to work with these guys.
Yeah.
So it was completely not what we had expected. One element which caused most of the conversions was like a little number on the top of the search results. We have the search results page, and on the top of the search results you have this. In total there are like 248 available JavaScript developers found. That was the raw moment for them, because you don't see that often. And in our case, the alternatives were websites of dev shops themselves. We just can't do this information because they have this limited pool. They are limited to their own stuff. And in our case, it was, wow, instead of getting like 2-3 developers or not getting any information about them at all, I suddenly have a big pool of talent which I can tap into. And that was, we didn't expect that. We were optimizing for many other things, but it turned out that thing was like single most important.
Basically, there are 2 other questions I want to ask.
Okay.
So first of them is like, what are 3 things?
It's because the world has changed. So for us, one of the biggest challenges, which consumed gargantuan amount of resources, was building the payment solution. Because in our case, it's like a trans-border payment, and you have to stay compliant, and you also want to make it comfortable and safe for both your clients and vendors. So it took us over the year.
So did you build your own
payment solution? We built our own payment solution based on top of Pioneer and Stripe.
All right.
Not to get the license for it, because it doesn't make sense if you are not huge, like if you are not Stripe or Facebook or Airbnb. But still, there is no existing solution, like a real end-to-end 100% compliant solution for international payments now. So you have to combine stuff. You have to find workarounds and so on. And this is hard. We didn't figure it out initially. And then it took us much longer because we had to refactor lots of stuff which was already there, work with customers and so on. So that was a huge pain. And two other things, measuring from the very beginning, like getting your analytics right, getting your data right. Maybe not if you as soon as you feel like you can hire a person for that, like an analyst, do this. You won't regret, because it will eventually save you much bigger resource of wasted, time and money.
Yeah.
Because of the bad solutions, of the bad. Yeah, I think one of our biggest mistakes down the road was that we have, at certain point, we have decided not to invest into outbound marketing, direct sales, cold email, cold calling, and so on, because we wanted to build this little machine that prints money itself. So you don't need to do anything. So you have automated, organic traffic that flows from one end, and then you have a fully automated product which processes it. And
it sounds like a utopia or something like that.
What I learned for a large check, for B2B, this is impossible. This doesn't work. So the fact that you are a marketplace is secondary. The market that you work with is primary. So if on this market people are used to buy stuff, to meet, to hire the talent and so on through direct marketing channels, then you need to use those channels. And the problem for us was that you have this delay. It's called sometimes 90 days rule in B2B sales. So when you put new prospects in on top of your funnel today, first of them will start to convert after 90 days. So there is this period of delay when you just have to nurture them, have to work them before you get further. And we didn't like it because we wanted things to happen faster.
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes they did happen faster, but it was not systemic.
Yeah.
It was separate, cases. So now we are rebuilding it back, on a different level, and but it also needs time, like content marketing. It needs time to warm up, to get its momentum before it starts generating results. So the sooner you start, the better.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for sharing this. And
Thank you.
what could be 3 pieces of advice you would like to give to those entrepreneurs who want to start a marketplace?
First, ask yourself a question: why? Why marketplace? Marketplaces are hard. Actually, all startups are hard.
Yeah.
Everyone is in its own respect. The hardest thing about marketplaces is that in order for it to work, you need to get to certain momentum, right? You need to kind of push this stone uphill, and then when you go through this tipping point, it starts rolling by itself. But to get to that tipping point is really, really hard.
Yeah.
So
it
you
takes
will have
years.
Exactly. So that would be the hard part. It won't start itself, most likely. It will need a lot of effort to get to some point. In the other hand, marketplaces are great because you don't have to invent something new to reinvent the wheel. You just have an economy which is already in place, and you put some catalyzer on top, which makes it more efficient. Which is good. But again, it's not about starting marketplace or SaaS or gaming or anything. It's about why you are doing this. Do you really care about this problem that you solve, right? Or is it something that you are really obsessed with, that you can work on, and you are happy to spend your time on it even if it doesn't make money for you? Otherwise, if it's not like that, it's better to start a grocery store. It's also a marketplace, right? But it's much less riskier.
Yeah, right. Well, thanks again for being here today with me and doing something wrong. So thanks again, Yurii, and
Thank you,
guys, see you in the next video. Cheers.
See you.